Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 36 running back rankings and tiers for week number 17 of the 2023 fantasy football season. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 17 top 36 running back rankings and tiers for the 2023 fantasy football season championship edition. We begin with the S tier at the running back position at number 1 with Christian McCaffrey of the 49ers going up against the Commanders in Washington this week. Now, despite the fact that the 49ers got absolutely spit roasted by the Baltimore Ravens last week and the offense was relatively limp dick, Brock Purdy was throwing interceptions like it was his job, McCaffrey still ended up as the running back 2 on the week. Christian McCaffrey is the safest running back week in and week out, and I think this 49ers team is going to come out angry. I think they are going to kick the shit out of the Commanders. I think Christian McCaffrey will finish as the running back 1. At number 2, we got Kyren Williams of the LA Rams going up against the Giants in MetLife. Kyren Williams was the RB12 last week up against the Saints and now has 4 of his last 5 games as a top 12 running back. The only game where he finished outside the top 12, he was the running back number 18. This is a guy that has ran 3 straight weeks over 100 yards and the Giants defense poses 0 threat to him. I think this is a cupcake spot for him. And while I did kind of debate between Kyren and Christian McCaffrey will always get the nod as the running back 1. At number 3, we got Rashad with 2A's White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Saints at home in Tampa. The Buccaneers offense is red hot, and Rashad White has been a top 10 running back in 4 straight weeks. This Saints defense does not scare me one bit. Rashad White is another one of these guys that is basically like wrapping a condom around your fantasy football team. He is incredibly safe, so I love him this week up against the Saints. At number 4, to close out the S tier, we got Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Now, earlier on in the season, it was kind of hard for Jahmyr Gibbs to find his footing in this offense, but kind of from week 7 on, Jahmyr Gibbs has taken a stranglehold over this offense and has been dominant, chains and whips, 50 Shades of Grey style, back-to-back weeks as the running back 3. Now, I get this week going up against the Dallas Cowboys. This is far from a cupcake matchup, but last week he was dancing on the grave of the Minnesota Vikings, another team with a great defense. This is a Lions team that needs this game. This is a Lions team that needs to continue to prove their worth on top of the NFC. The Cowboys are another team that really needs this game. I expect this to be a very high-scoring back and forth tit-for-tat affair, and I think Jahmyr Gibbs will find the end zone in this game and finish as a top 5 running back. Moving now to the A tier. At number 5, we got James Cook of the Buffalo Bills going up against the New England Patriots. Now, I know after James Cook was on top of the world from weeks 11 through week 15 as a top 12 running back in every single week, he shit the bed against the Chargers last week, but up against the Patriots, I expect James Cook to be great yet again. I expect James Cook to stand up here and have a much better game. This is an offense that under Joe Brady has really loved to run the rock. They've loved to pound the ball down the throat of the defense. And while the Patriots defense definitely isn't completely terrible, I think that the Bills have a much stronger performance here, and I think that James Cook has a hell of a game as a top 5 running back. At number 6, we have Alvin Kamara. Now, Alvin Kamara does have a questionable tag as of right now because he's ill, not sick, as Lil Wayne would say, and I think he will end up suiting up on Sunday. The matchup up against the Bucks is definitely solid. Now, Alvin Kamara, just like James Cook, who we just talked about, definitely shit the bed last week as the running back number 38, but this is a guy that has been basically a top 12 running back every single game since he got out of his suspension. The Buccaneers matchup definitely isn't the best on earth, but I do think Alvin Kamara will be great here. He's a guy that could get 8+ targets in any given game, and I expect him to run a whole lot smoother this week against the Bucks. At number 7, we got DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift is probably the most frustrating player in fantasy football because even Jason Kelce acknowledged it, right? On his podcast with Travis, he said that hey, when we get to the 1 yard line from DeAndre Swift falling on the 1 yard line, I go up to him and I apologize to him. I say, hey, you know what's coming next, right? And it's almost basically what he said was a kick in the balls to all DeAndre Swift fantasy owners, because we all knew this, and it is actually the case. Now, this week going up against the Arizona Cardinals moved him up my rankings heavily, because this is a game where I feel as though he is going to get at least 1 touchdown. This is a wet dream spot for DeAndre Swift, and I think he closes the year out with a humongous game here up against the Cardinals. At number 8, we got Travis Etienne going up against the Carolina Panthers. Now, Etienne was another one of those guys on the struggle bus last week. This is a team that's going to be without Trevor Lawrence, so CJ Beathard, Big Dick Beathard, will be under center. I think Beathard's going to look to check the ball down a ton. This is a great spot up against the Panthers. And again, while I think a lot of people are getting their panties in a bunch and really worrying about Etienne, to me, he is still a must-start running back. At number 9, we have Raheem, the wet dream Mostert, going up against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Now, while I was making the rankings for this video, initially, I had Mostert ranked a little bit lower, but I had to, bump him up a little bit, because I get, Nick, the Ravens matchup is scary, this, that, and the other thing. I know earlier on in the week, people were worried about the ankle injury, but he is set to go on Sunday. Last week, he did have his first down game in a while, but that was because he got hurt and missed a decent chunk of the game. He was in for the whole game, even up against the Dallas Cowboys defense. I still think he probably would have scored 2 touchdowns. Still probably would have finished as a top 16-14 back at the very least. Now, again, people might panic about the Ravens matchup, but this is a team that's going to be without Jaylen Waddle away. Waddle. They are going to hinge on the run in this spot. I think Raheem Mostert finds pay dirt at least once in this game. Now we move to running backs 10 through 15 in the B tier, beginning at number 10 with JT, Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders in Indianapolis. Now, I can't do that as loud as normal because I'm still a little bit under the weather. My nose still real sniffly, so I apologize to you guys for that if I sound a little bit nasally. Sorry, I sound like a bit of a pipsqueak here, but going up against the Raiders is a great spot for Jonathan Taylor. I get that he definitely did not live up to expectations last week up against the Falcons, but I think up against the Raiders, this Colts offense will look a whole lot better, thus giving Jonathan Taylor the bump up to be a top 12 back. At number 11, we have Zamir White. Now, if you wanted to argue for Zamir White over Jonathan Taylor, I wouldn't even call you that crazy. It seems like Josh Jacobs is going to miss yet again, and Zamir White has had back-to-back top 16 games without Josh Jacobs. Last week, even running for over 140 yards. This Colts defense is hot. It's cold. They kind of have their phases within the game, and game to game, some weeks this defense looks like the fucking 85 Bears. Other weeks, they look like the Arizona Cardinals, right? So I do definitely think that Zamir White will be able to get it done in this game. The team really does love relying on Zamir White. And again, without Josh Jacobs, this is yet another great opportunity for Zamir White to be a top 16 guy. I feel very confident saying he's a lock to be a top 16 running back. At number 12, we got Saquon Barkley. Now, Saquon Barkley is a pretty tough cat to rank every single week, because while I love Saquon Barkley and everyone loves Saquon Barkley, we have no idea what this fucking Giants offense is going to look like every single week, right? They go back to Tyrod Taylor, and maybe that's a huge boost to Saquon Barkley, or maybe it's the dagger in his back because Tyrod likes to run the ball so much. Now, Barkley was the running back 9 last week against the Eagles. This matchup against the Rams definitely is far from ideal, but again, he's Saquon Barkley, so you got to rank him pretty high. At number 13, we got Tony Pollard. Now, Tony Pollard is a guy that, despite the fact that in weeks 11 through week 14, he really started to pick things up. He turned his season around. His whole fucking world flipped upside down like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? And then over the last 2 weeks, he's fallen outside the top 35 at the running back. The Lions defense could not stop a nosebleed. The Lions defense sucks donkey cock. So I think, again, this is going to be a tit for tat, rock'em sock'em robots, high scoring affair. And I think Tony Pollard gets back in the good graces of fantasy owners this week. And number 14, we got Bijan. Now, I would love to sit here and give Bijan Robinson the metaphorical gawk gawk 9,000 special. I would love to sing the praises of Bijan Robinson. But frankly, while this guy is an amazing athlete, While this guy, every time he touches the ball, it feels like an angel gains his wings. The problem is Arthur Smith is such a goddamn idiot that you can never truly trust Bijan. The matchup here against the Bears isn't the best, but it isn't the worst. Now, if Bijan Robinson had a competent head coach, I'd be sitting here banging the drum aggressively for Bijan, but Bijan has Arthur Smith as his head coach. So again, while I love Bijan Robinson this week, he can't be ranked as high as I want to rank him as like an A-tier running back because his coach sometimes just doesn't give him the ball. At number 15 to close out the B tier, we got Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Chiefs going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. I do not believe that Isaiah Pacheco will end up going, and that will mean that the workhorse running back for the Chiefs will be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. No Jerick McKinnon, no Pacheco. Now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not a good running back. He's not. But he is being jolted into a scenario where he could be really good, right? Because again, while the Chiefs' offense has been very limp dick as of recently, they do like to utilize the running back. Mahomes will check the ball down 3, 4, maybe 5 times in this game, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire will probably score a touchdown. Now, if this was in week 3 and all the running backs were hurt and you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'd be sitting here just ecstatic to talk up Clyde Edwards-Helaire because, oh my God, he's on the Chiefs, this, that, and the other thing. Well, this Chiefs team doesn't look like the Chiefs team anyone expected them to be. But hey, even on a worse Chiefs team, it is hard to not understand the immense amount of upside here, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire might fuck around and be a league winner this season. Moving now to the C tier. At number 16, we got Kenneth Walker III of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home in Seattle. Now, Kenneth Walker is another one of these guys that is banged up. He's dealing with a shoulder and illness injury. It seems like everything that I've read is pointing more towards this being illness related, not due to the other injury. Now, Kenneth Walker in a wet dream matchup in a game that I was so ecstatic to talk about, he shits the bed against the Titans. But this is a Seattle team that loves to run the ball. This is a Seattle team that loves to heavily utilize Kenneth Walker when he's healthy. I get the Steelers defense has been a whole lot better as of recently, but I have to believe the Seattle offense looks better in this game, and I have to believe that Kenneth Walker bounces back in this spot. At number 17, we got Joe Mixon of the Bengals going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City in a Jake Browning almost disaster class type of game. Joe Mixon has just 9 fantasy points last week against the Steelers, but now he gets a much softer matchup up against the Chiefs. There's a Chiefs team that really hasn't been the greatest against the run all year, and their defense appears to be fading away like a jumper from Michael Jordan. So Joe Mixon here, the last 3 games besides last week, the prior 3 games, running back 15, 6, and 1. Jake Browning, I understand, did not look great last week, but I think Jake Browning's good enough to keep this game competitive, especially with, again, how inept the Chiefs offense has looked with Kermit the Frog, Patrick Mahomes under center. So I like Mixon to bounce back here as a very safe top 18 type of guy. At number 18, we got Aaron Jones. Now, Aaron Jones looked like the old Aaron Jones last week. The problem was he didn't score a touchdown. He had over 120 rushing yards, 15 fantasy points, just no touchdown. Now, this Vikings defense is not like the Chiefs defense we just talked about. Not like some of the easier defenses. It might not be the most ideal situation ever, right? It's like when a girl's tugging you off, right? And she doesn't even spit on it a little bit, right? And it feels a little bit rough, but hey, it still works, right? You're still fucking exploding like a fucking firework at the end. So Aaron Jones, even up against a tougher matchup, just like a dry hand job, I think Aaron Jones gets it done. At number 19, we got Ty Chandler, the other running back in this game. Now, last week was a disaster for Ty Chandler as Nick Mullins turned into Stevie Wonder. This week, the question is Jaron Hall better than Nick Mullins? And the answer to that would be fuck no, baby! Jaron Hall is not good at all, which made me be very nervous about Ty Chandler, and I'm still nervous. Now, the Packers' defense is basically Swiss cheese, so it should be easy for even Jaron Hall to have a good game, but that's why I question, why would you get rid of Nick Mullins when he would be hung? He'd be hitting the defense with some back shots, so I don't really get that, but Chandler should be fine here, but the quarterback downgrade does definitely scare me. At number 20, we got David Montgomery. Now, David Montgomery is probably the safest running back that we have here. The problem is with how Jahmyr Gibbs has been playing so well, Montgomery has kind of not been necessarily shoved away like, hey, I don't want to play with you anymore, because he's still getting like 18, 19 fucking touches a game. It's just the touchdowns have kind of faded away. The big runs aren't going his way as much, and Jahmyr Gibbs is hitting the fucking nos, right? He's the guy blasting off into space like the goddamn little Einsteins, right? So while I do still like David Montgomery a ton, while I think that David Montgomery is a very safe back, the upside at this point to me feels a little bit capped. Like, I would really be shocked if he finished as a top 10 running back. Now, maybe he'll finish as like the running back 13 or 14, beat out my expectations a little bit. But again, that feels normal, him being the running back 13 or 14, right? Him being a top 10 guy, really busting off a huge run, couple of runs, really just doesn't seem the cards for him right now. At number 21, can you do something for me? We got Zeke going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. This is a great spot for Zeke. This is a Patriots team that beat the Bills last time these two teams played, but the Bills are running red hot. Sure, the Patriots just beat the Denver Broncos, and sure, Zeke had a good game there as the running back 6. And I get, again, this is a great spot. Chef's kiss Manu week against the Bills. But does it actually happen, right? Last week, he was ineffective as it gets. 12 carries for 27 yards, but he gets 11 fucking targets to make up for it. 9 receptions, 33 yards, and the score, right? If he doesn't get 11 reception or 11 targets, can he have that great of a game again? I don't think so. Now, this is a guy that's been the running back 1 a couple of weeks ago up against the Steelers. So I'm not sitting here being an Ezekiel Elliott hater, right? I'm not drinking some haterade, but what I'm going to tell you is, hey, maybe be a little bit cautious, because again, while I want the Patriots to beat the Bills, I'm a Dolphins fan, I don't think that's going to end up happening. At the D tier, we moved running back 22 through 26. We got Derrick Henry. Now, realistically, normally Derrick Henry goes to pound town against the Houston Texans, goes to pound town against these division rivalry matchups without the use of lube, right? This is normally a game where Derrick Henry sends 5 defenders to the fucking hospital and has a gazillion points. Last time these two teams played was 2 weeks ago. He scored 5 fucking points. This is a Titans team that, with Will Levis reportedly coming back, should be better. But again, here, I'm not going to sit here and just pretend like the Titans are this great team. The Texans defense is, like Tony the Tiger, great. So I am a little bit worried about Henry. Again, Derrick Henry is one of these guys where I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was the running back 5. I also wouldn't be surprised at all if he's the running back 37, right? That's just how the cookie crumbles with Henry. He's been the running back 5, 46, 11, 4, 10 over the last 5 games. So 4 to 5 games, he's been great. The one game against the Texans, he shit the bed. So with a CJ Stroud seemingly coming back, this could be a game that gets out of hand. This could be a game where they're not able to run the ball with Tractor Cedo as much, and they have to go with Tajay Spears, and then Derrick Henry ends up being kind of irrelevant. So, again, it's kind of a limbo scenario. How low can you go, right? How low can we rank Henry? Running back 22 is how low we can go. At number 23, we got James Conner. Now, James Conner has been cooking 3 straight weeks as a top 11 back, but now he faces the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know, Nick, the Eagles defense hasn't been great this season, but, and this is a big but, shout out Kendra Lust, going up against the Eagles defense over the last 2 weeks has been a tough task with Matt Patricia, the pencil in the ear fucking defensive coordinator. So, I'm a little worried about James Conner. Now, again, he'll probably still have a top 12 game, but I can't rank him that high because, again, I think the Eagles are going to be up big in this game. I think they're not going to be able to run as much. And number 24, we got Austin Eckler. And I know people have a problem. Nick, how can you rank Eckler this low against the Denver Broncos, Nick? Why do you hate Austin Eckler? Well, I'm an Austin Eckler stan, but let's be honest. Let's just be real, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over his last 6 games, he has been a top 12 running back once. Every other game, he has been outside the top 20. He had 1 game as the running back 24 last week, The other games, running back 35, 34, 32, and 31. Say all you want. Nick, all the receivers are out. I know they're all out. But does that magically mean that Austin Ekeler is now going to be efficient with the touches he gets? Does that now magically mean that Austin Ekeler is going to turn back the clock and play like Austin Ekeler did earlier on in the season? I don't think so. Now, again, for most people, you're still stuck like glue, playing Austin Ekeler, and I get it. But to be honest with you guys, again, I'm being as honest as possible, I don't trust Ekeler. At number 25, we got Devin Singletary going up against the Tennessee Titans. This is a wet dream spot for Singletary, who did not play well against the Browns last week, but when you have Case Keenum going up against the Browns, shouldn't be shocking when Case Keenum has a bad game. Plugging Stroud back into this equation is going to be a recipe of sugar, spice, and everything nice. Shout out the Powerpuff Girls for the Texans. I think against the Tennessee Titans defense, Devin Singletary is going to have a great performance. And again, Dameon Pierce has really taken the back seat. Devin Singletary is in the driver's seat, and Devin Singletary is going to ball out of control up against the Titans. Before we move on into the rest of the running back rankings and tiers, so I can get the focus back, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel or not, hit that like button down below. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below. And I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play NFL Pick'em in the whole entire universe, and today, Underdog Fantasy has a great offer for you guys, but first, I want to explain how the Pick'em game works. So you're going to have to pick a minimum of 2 players from at least 2 different teams, so you can't, for instance, just take 2 players on the Lions. If you did want to do that, you'd have to match it with a player from another team. You can go with the Jets, the Browns. They have every single game on here as the week goes along. They will add more and more picks. So we're going to talk about the Lions at the Cowboys game here. First, we are going to go ahead and go with CeeDee Lamb higher than 90.5 receiving yards, I think, up against the Lions defense. CeeDee Lamb should be able to have a feast in this game, and we are going to match that with David Montgomery higher than 52.5 rushing yards. I think you can definitely take advantage of the Dallas Cowboys by running the ball, and it feels like they definitely want to get David Montgomery 15 plus touches in this game, and I think he could definitely eclipse 52.5 rushing yards. So if both CeeDee Lamb and David Montgomery go higher on their number, you will receive 3 times your entry fee. If you do 3 picks, that is 6 times, 4 picks is 10 times, and 5 picks is 20 times your entry fee, assuming that all of them hit. Now, if you are new to Underdog Fantasy and live in one of the states on your screen right now, you'll receive a first match deposit bonus of up to $100 with promo code Notorious. So if you deposit $100, they give you an additional $100. You do 50, get an additional 50, 25, additional 25. The minimum deposit on Underdog Fantasy is $10. If you have a gambling problem, please make sure you call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back on into things here, running back 26 to close out the D tier, Chuba Hubbard. Now, Chuba Hubbard is basically a stone cold lock to get 15 plus touches every single week. And prior to last week, where he got 17 touches, he was getting 20 plus the last 3 games. Now, going up against the Jaguars defense isn't very scary at all. We got the Battle of the Cats. If anyone's listening on podcast, they didn't see the hand gesture I just made. That shit was so funny, and I started laughing, so I'm sick, so I started coughing, so I had to cut that. If they're like, oh my god, Nick, why are you cutting shit out? That's why, because I had a fucking cough fit. Chuba's basically a stone cold lock to be a top 26 guy. Problem is, like, he's on the Panthers, so, like, the upside isn't really the highest. He's gonna be fine, right? He's gonna get you 12 fucking points every week. He's gotten 12 points in 3 straight games. He did have a stretch where he scored a touchdown or more in 2 straight games, but I don't really see him scoring here. If he does, you'll be real happy. If not, you're getting 12 fantasy points, and you know what? Sometimes that's good enough. Now we move to the E tier. Now is basically the time in the running back rankings where it's like, okay, you need to pray to the football gods above for a good game here, right? Because you are kind of just, rummaging through the dumpster, right? You're rummaging through shit here to try to find a running back to start. Now, do I think Najee Harris is so bad at this point in the season? No, because he's looked a little bit better recently. But again, that's not really saying much. 19 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown last week as the running back 19. I think he's a pretty safe bet to finish inside the top 30. But besides that, like, I'm not ecstatic to start Najee. And that's why he's in this range. Now, Gus Edwards, I'm pretty excited about because I think he's fun. But the thing is, Najee Harris could not score a touchdown and have a decent game. Gus Edwards needs to score a touchdown, right? He is hinging so heavily on that touchdown to have a decent game. The Dolphins' defense is not the best against the run. So Gus could find the end zone. And without Keaton Mitchell, it does make me a lot more confident in Gus, who scored a touchdown in back-to-back games. But again, this is a guy that isn't really guaranteed to get a lot of carries, right? The Baltimore Ravens were dealing out back shots to the 49ers, right? We talked about this. The 49ers got skull-fucked by the Ravens, and Gus Edwards had 9 carries, right? And then he busts off a reception for 39 yards and he scores. I get it, right? He has a decent game, but he's not guaranteed 10 carries. He's just not, even against the Dolphins. So again, while I think that Gus Edwards is a good bet to score a touchdown, as a Dolphins fan, I'll acknowledge, hey, he'll probably score. But if he doesn't score, right, if he gets locked out of the end zone, right, then you are fucked. At number 29, we got Devin Achane. Now, I want to rank Devin Achane higher. Devin Achane's a guy that doesn't need 20 gazillion touches to have a great game. But the problem is, the touches have kind of been siphoned away. This is a guy that averages 8.1 yards per carry. So again, he doesn't need. His last good game was week 13 against the Commanders. He has 17 touches, scores 2 touchdowns, over 100 all-purpose yards, running back 3 on the week. But the last 3 games, 7 carries, 3 receptions, running back 51. 9 carries, 3 receptions, running back 29. 7 rushes, 5 receptions, running back 24 against the Titans. So again, do I like Achane? Yes. Do I trust him? No. Now we move to the F tier, and this is basically like you are just acknowledging kind of defeat at running back. Like, you got to play these guys, so you play them, but you're not ecstatic about it. Now, Brian Robinson, all signs are pointing towards him being a go based upon what I have read. So we shall see what actually ends up happening on Sunday, because that's not a guarantee, but I've read that he's going to be supposedly good to go. Now, the 49ers defense is very scary. The 49ers defense has Chase Young, who's looking to prove a point against the Commanders. Brian Robinson's going to finish as a top 36 back. I can almost guarantee it. He plays. But being a top 36 running back doesn't really mean shit. I think his upside's probably running back 24. Number 31, we got Javonte. Now they go from Russell Wilson, I know who hasn't looked great this season, to Jarrett Stidham. Against the Chargers. But Javonte Williams has been on a downward skid over the last 2 games. I don't suspect him really having that huge of a game here. Running back 31 feels fair. Number 32, Jaylen Warren. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. Shout out to Pi Omai from The Sopranos. So I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to do is just speak very quickly about it. Jaylen Warren should be the starting running back of the Steelers, but he's not. Since he's not the starting running back, you shouldn't be starting him. Regardless of what you think about the Seattle Seahawks defense, whether you think they're a wet dream, whether you think they're a tough matchup, it doesn't matter, because he's not going to be given the rightful amount of touches to have a great game. Now we move to the G tier at the running back position, number 33, Tyjae Spears. On paper, I believe this is a great matchup for Tyjae Spears to feast against the Texans, because the Titans are going to be getting bent over table, and then they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more, which utilizes Tyjae Spears more. But again, that is far from a lock. Let's see how Stroud looks. So I think Tyjae Spears should have a decent game, but again, I don't want to be hinging on him. Number 34, Khalil Herbert. Donta Foreman should be back, and I think that means no bueno for Khalil Herbert. Now, he was the running back 11 last week. Congrats, but again, with all 3 running backs back in line here, I think there's going to be a 3-headed running back by committee where they all see a couple of touches. None of them elevate themselves, and you end up kind of just shit out of luck if you started any of them. At number 35, we got Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson's a guy that's not going to see a lot of touches with Brian Robinson in the game, but if he does bust one off, he could score a touchdown and have a decent game. But again, against the 49ers, that seems unlikely. At 36, we got Chase Brown. Now, Brown's touches have been dropping like it's hot. Shout out Snoop Dogg. But again, he's another one of these guys, super speedy. Shout out to the Flash, Barry Allen. So if he does bust one off, he could have a decent game. But again, you don't want to be starting really any of these guys. Tyjae Spears is the finest of them all, the fairest maiden of them all, but let's be honest with you, I'm not going to sit here banging the drum for him either. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hit that like button. That was a Notorious Fantasy fucking flu game. My nose hurts like a motherfucker. It's why I keep touching it. I haven't snorted a lot of coke today. I couldn't because my nose was so fucked up. I'm like Tony Montana over here. So I love you guys, genuinely. Hope you guys have a great one. Make sure you guys check out the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Love you guys. We'll be live tomorrow, Sunday before the games. Have a great one. As always, good boy. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Good boy.